In this video, I'm going to be comparing the Terminator and Predator franchise. One big difference for me right away is that I have seen every single Terminator movie. Admittedly, I haven't rewatched T3 Rise of the Machines anytime recently, but I have seen it before. Whereas with Predator, I haven't seen every single movie because I've not watched The Predator from 2018, directed by Shane Black. When you look at the highest score for each franchise, in the case of Terminator, that original movie has a 100%. In the case of Predator, Prey currently has the highest score of 94%. Terminator wins here. Then when you look at lowest score, in the case of Terminator, Genesis has the lowest score of 26%. In the case of Predator, AVP Requiem, unsurprisingly, has the lowest score of 12%. Terminator wins here. Then when you look at average score, Terminator has an average of 65. Predator has an average of 48, so Terminator wins here. Then we look at gap between lowest and highest score. With Terminator, it's a pretty big gap, 74%. With Predator, you have a gap of 68. So Predator wins this round, but Terminator won the first free round, so that franchise is going to win this debate, regardless of my personal opinion. But let's look at it now, and I would say that I definitely prefer the Terminator franchise. Obviously, the original two movies are both great films that are iconic classics. They're different from each other, to be sure, because the original film does a great job of being a genre blender. It's action, it's sci-fi, it's horror, it's romance. With Terminator 2, there's of course horror and sci-fi in it, but it also plays out much more like a big budget action blockbuster. Now, T3 Rise of the Machines, I'm not a fan of this movie. Is there entertainment value to be had? Sure, but I think that this movie gets too goofy for the Terminator franchise. It commits to me the ultimate sequel sin of both being an absolute rehash of Terminator 2 Judgment Day while also greatly undermining the ending of Terminator 2, because T3 Rise of the Machines invalidates the victory of the ending of Terminator 2 because it says, oh, Judgment Day is now inevitable. And then the case of Salvation, I think both this movie and Dark Fate get overly criticized. People don't give these movies enough credit for what they do right. In the case of Salvation, would it have been better if the movie had the same visual look that you got in the first two movies with the blue/black as well as the energy lasers that we see? Sure, but I think that just simply getting a movie in the future war is really interesting. I like the idea that John Connor has not yet risen to be the leader of the resistance. There are other people who are technically on paper in charge, but while John Connor is not yet at that point where he's in positional authority, he has the respect of the people. By the end of the movie, they choose to listen to him, not the people who are on paper in charge. With Genesis, I have fun with that movie as dumb, big budget Terminator fan fiction because it's so stupid that's entertaining, but I don't think it's actually good. It gets way too complicated. I don't like the idea of John Connor being a Terminator. And when it comes to Dark Fate, would it have been better if you had either not killed off John Connor at all or just simply waited until later in the movie so we can actually spend some time with John Connor before he's killed? Sure, I would agree with that, but overall, I think Dark Fate actually works because I think that there's good action in there. I like what they do with the Rev 9, having a liquid metal Terminator that can split apart the liquid metal and the robotic endoskeleton. That's pretty interesting. And in the case of the Terminator franchise, I will say because of the lore that's been established, I can see why the filmmakers did what they did. And also, I think there are visuals in this movie that work. Does the movie get over the top when you get into the third act? Yeah, I'd agree with that. But overall, I actually did enjoy Dark Fate. When it comes to the Predator franchise, of course, the original movie is fantastic. Does a great job of starting off like a textbook 80s action flick about these guys who are the best of the best, or tough military people that just go in with these big guns, blow everything up, kill a ton of henchmen without a second thought, and with them quipping as well. And I think once the Predator comes in the picture, that's when things get really interesting, because these people who we know are the best of the best start to unravel as they don't know what they're facing off against. And so they start to lose it. And then Dutch of the End wins because he's clever, not because he can beat the Predator in an arm wrestling match. When it comes to Predator 2, I don't dislike this movie. I think that putting the Predator in a concrete jungle is interesting. I like expanding on the Predator code of honor. I like seeing this guy actually kill a Predator. I like the fact that you have these government people that know what's going on and they're trying to hunt the Predator. I think that's an interesting idea. But, however, the central mystery here doesn't work because we as the audience already know it's the Predator that's doing all this stuff because we've already seen the first movie, and the stuff with the cops comes off as pretty standard by the books. It's like, ooh, this feels ripped right out of Lethal Weapon. There's even actors from Lethal Weapon in Predator 2. And when it comes to Prey, I think this is actually a great way to continue the Predator franchise. Just simply putting the Predator on Earth during the time of the Native Americans is a really interesting way to do something a bit different, because we're seeing humanity at a time where humanity is less advanced, so they don't have big guns at this point and mostly using more primitive weapons like spears, bows and arrows, axes, that kind of thing. We even see the Predator is not quite as advanced as he is in the other movies. When it comes to Predators, I think this is a movie that people have overly criticized for a long time. They tend to think that, well, because the movie is safe, that makes it bad. It doesn't take enough risks, so it's bad. I don't agree with that kind of thinking at all. Is Predators the best movie in the franchise? No. Does it play it safe? Yes. But does it make it bad? Absolutely not. Because Predators delivers the experience that I want from one of these movies. It has the thrills, it has the action, it has good acting in it. I think the idea of putting these humans on a game preserved planet so the Predators can hunt them is a really interesting idea. That's a solid way to expand on the lore without making everything overly complicated. I think that's one of the big problems of Shane Black's Predator movie. It just gets overly complicated for no good reason. When it comes to AVP, the first film, I think this one works as just dumb, big budget cinematic fan fiction. It's not a movie I take very seriously at all. I don't consider it canon. It's just fun time seeing Alien and Predator duke it out. But then you get AVP Requiem, and ooh, yikes. This movie is just a bad movie that's boring. That's also unpleasant for me, because you have that moment, for example, when the alien predator hybrid goes into the nursing wing of a hospital, and the movie implies that this alien eats all the babies, and then it goes up to a pregnant woman and shoves eggs down her throat. At that point, I'm like, filmmakers, we're just being nasty for the sake of being nasty. This is just putting shocking imagery on the screen for the sake of putting shocking imagery on the screen. Plus, the characters are not interesting at all. You're not invested in them, and you can't make out what's going on. At the end of the day, I definitely prefer the Terminator franchise. The biggest reason why, for me, is that I would, without hesitation, rewatch any of the bad Terminator films before I ever rewatch AVP Requiem. I saw that movie one time, and it's like, nope, I'm never going to watch that movie again. That'll wrap things up for now.